Microphone. Okay, here we go. Planning Commission meeting of April 7th, 2021 will come to order. All rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Secretary will call roll, please.
Commissioner Hodge?
Here.
Commissioner Rice?
Here.
Commissioner Gray?
Here.
Vice Chairperson Tolson?
Here.
Chairperson Mann?
Here. May I have a motion for approval of the agenda?
Move to approve the agenda.
Second.
Motion was made by Commissioner Rice and seconded by Commissioner Hodge. Unless there's any objections, the agenda stands approved. May I have a motion for approval of minutes?
I move to approve the minutes.
I second.
Motion was made by Vice Chair Tolson and seconded by Commissioner Gray. Unless there are any objections, the minutes are approved. Declaration of conflict. The Secretary will read the declaration of conflict, please.
If any member of the Planning Commission may have a conflict of interest or any reason why that member must abstain from consideration of any matter on this agenda, he or she should so declare at this time.
Are there any declarations of conflict? Hearing none, we move on. Public statements. This is the time allotted for public statements or comments for all other items than public hearing items. Due to the closure of city council chambers to the public in compliance with governor's orders N 2920, public statements are to be accommodated via Zoom. Did we receive any requests from any individuals who would like to make public statements?
No, we did not.
Moving on, item number 8, correspondence. Is there any correspondence from the Deputy Director, City Planner? You even tried it beforehand. There it goes. Nope, you had it.
I'll try it here.
Hey, this one works.
Good evening, Chairman and members of the Commission. We received one correspondence on agenda item number 8 from Natalie Craig. This is a public correspondence item, not an agenda item, and that was provided to each of you in your boxes today.
Okay, thank you. Nothing for consent, no continued business. We are on to new business. This is the time and place set for a public hearing on the consideration of WTP 98, a request to construct and operate a wireless telecommunications facility consisting of a 48-foot mono-eucalyptus and related equipment at an existing commercial property. Determined mono-eucalyptus designs to be approved telecommunication facility designs, ATFD, and a determination that the project is exempt from the California Environmental Qualities Act. Are there any ex parte communications to report? Hearing none, may we have an oral report on this matter by staff?
Good evening, Chairman Mann, members of the Planning Commission. This is a wireless telecommunications facility, a proposed mono-eucalyptus. I know the Commission has not received wireless facilities in 2 or 3 years, so our staff today is Principal Planner Claudia Pedroso and Associate Planner Cesar Hernandez, who will be doing our presentation tonight. Cesar?
Thank you, Mr. Gibson.
Good evening, Planning Commissioners. J5 Infrastructure Partners submitted an application for a wireless telecommunications permit to construct and operate a wireless telecommunications facility consisting of a 48-foot tall monocalyptus at an existing commercial property. The project also includes a request to determine monocalyptus designs to be approved telecommunications facilities designs, ATFD. Pursuant to Simi Valley Municipal Code, the Planning Commission is the decision maker for the requested project type. The project is located at 2503 Royal Avenue, near the intersection of Royal Avenue and Sycamore Drive. Can the commissioners and those who are logged in see our screen?
Yes.
Okay, good. The proposed structure will be located in a planter within the shopping center parking lot. The retail stores are to the north and south. There's also a gas station and restaurant to the east and residential properties surround the area, with the nearest home being approximately 163 feet away. The proposed monocalyptus will be located in the existing landscape planter that includes 6 palm trees and an existing 35-foot tall monopalm telecommunications facility for Verizon. The applicant is proposing a 48-foot tall monocalyptus in order to obtain the appropriate clearance and optimum antenna range from the cell site. The specified radio frequency range and coverage includes the area between Royal, Sycamore, LA Avenue, and Erringer Road. The monocalyptus will be located on the eastern end of the planter, and the applicant initially proposed installing 2 new 25-foot tall palm trees adjacent to the eucalyptus. However, it was later determined that two of the existing palm trees would interfere with the monocalyptus, and instead those trees will be relocated within the same planter, as indicated on the screen. The applicant is also proposing a new 150 square foot lease area to house the related equipment located in the adjacent single-story commercial building. The equipment includes 3 FIF racks, 1 battery rack, 1 DC power plant, 2 AC units, 1 fiber cabinet, and 1 telco cabinet. This photo simulation shows the monocalyptus design, the existing 35-foot tall Verizon monopalm, and the existing landscaping. Condition A14 in the staff report includes design criteria for the monocalyptus in order to conceal the equipment more precisely and so that the finished product has a more natural appearance, including length of branches, branch density, and distance, varying tops. This is a photo simulation from Royal Avenue, and please note that the monocalyptus is below the height of the adjacent palm trees. This is the photo sim from Sawyer Avenue. The monocalyptus is located further to the east, and the Verizon monopalm is closer to Sawyer Avenue. The equipment enclosure will be within the 1-story building to the right, south of the monocalyptus. The second action required of the Planning Commission is to consider the proposed design and a previously approved monocalyptus design as ATFD. ATFDs are approved telecommunication facilities that are determined to constitute a standardized design, i.e. height, diameter of poles, screening or camouflaging, antenna placement, and placement of equipment. After an ATFD determination, projects can be approved administratively. provided all other findings and requirements of Simi Valley Municipal Code Title 535 are satisfied. The Deputy Environmental Services Director, City Planner, has the authority to issue a permit for a wireless telecommunications facility proposed in the right-of-way, public facility, or on private property when its design is consistent with an ATFD. These are the proposed Monte Eucalyptus designs for the Planning Commission's consideration. On the left is the current proposal for the Monte Eucalyptus design. On the right is an existing installation of a mono-euc at Keener Drive and the 118 freeway. The design on the right, WTP 74, was previously approved by the Planning Commission in 2015. The Planning Commission can determine if the proposed and existing Monte Eucalyptus designs are appropriate to be ATFDs. As mentioned before, condition A14 includes design criteria so that the Monte Eucalyptus properly screens the equipment while maintaining a natural appearance. Under the provisions of the CEQA guidelines, the projects are categorically exempt, as stated in the staff report. The request includes both approval of WTP 98 and approval of the proposed and existing Monte Eucalyptus designs as ATFDs. Based on that, the following are options for the Planning Commission to consider. And staff recommends option number 1, approve wireless telecommunications permit WTP 98, determine the designs of the Monte Eucalyptus to be approved ATFDs, and determine that the project is exempt from CEQA. This concludes staff's presentation. Staff is available to address any questions.
Yes, Mr. Hernandez. The existing eucalyptus, mono eucalyptus on Cooner, how tall is that one?
Staff, I believe, is speculating that it's around 35 feet, at least.
Okay. Thank you.
I'd like to follow up on that.
By all means, Commissioner Hodge, please.
Yeah, the WTP 74, does it, I understand that one of the issues here is that the panels need to be 10 meters off the ground. This particular design, the WTP 98, provides for that. Just 39 feet is the bottom of the panel. Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right. So is there a design, is there rather a size for WTP 74 that would meet that requirement?
WTP 74, it would meet that requirement because, like you said, it's 10 meters, which is supposed to be approximately about 33 feet. And that one is at the bottom of the antennas. Actually, the antennas are at 35 feet. But if the 10 meters excludes the review of the RF emissions, if it's within the 10 meters, then the RF study needs to be submitted with the application.
I understood that, and my question is a little different. My question really is there a type or size of WTP 74 that would meet the requirement to give this particular project the height requirement to meet the 10-meter standard?
It could definitely be conditioned to comply with that height.
Okay. The reason I'm asking it is, and I wish that the photograph on WTP 74 was a little better for the base, for the pole, in essence. My thought looking at, well, let me ask another question. The staff report referenced there being in the WTP 98 design that the branches would, well, I'll call them branches because that's what they are, would stick out beyond the panels in order to camouflage. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So looking at these two designs though from this photograph, honestly, I thought the one on the right was a legitimate eucalyptus tree. The one on the left looks not like a eucalyptus tree. It's too uniform. I've never seen a tree grow like that unless it's been clipped. And from the design that I see here, the panels are not recessed in any shape, in any manner, behind the length of the branches. And so ultimately my question is can the developer in this particular, not the developer, can the applicant in this particular project use a 74? And I think the answer is yes, that there is it's not so much the design in the one that's currently in place there on the right. And that one that is large enough in the design of the 74 can be in place to meet the needs to go 10 meters plus above the ground to meet the RF issue. So am I correct in that assessment?
Commissioner Hodge, that's correct. What we're looking at is obviously WTP 74, which in real time you see the design and implemented. WTP 98 has the same requirements in the conditions of approval. The difference is a simulation does not, I'd say, better reflect kind of what we want to look at or the commissioners or want to see on WTP 74. However, the applicant can construct and reflect off WTP 74 if requested.
Okay. When you answer the question that way, it raises a question to me, and I don't want to disallow that the 98 version may actually be quite good. I think you just said that the 98 that's depicted in this rendering may not be a real life. Is that what you're saying, that it may not be a good representation of what these designs actually look like when they're completed?
The design it could be like when it's constructed look like WTP 74. What we had the applicant provide was a design at the 48-foot level, and what he was trying to accomplish was to make sure that he at least had the 10 feet above AGL and have the fullness, because we went through a couple of design back and forth with the applicant to have them constructed as such. However,
the base of the 98 from this rendering looks like it could be a concrete base of an electrolier of a street light. I can't really tell what the base looks like on the 74 because it's partly obscured by the enclosure. Do we have any better pictures of what the 74 looks like at the lower level?
I don't think we have any better pictures of 74 at the lower level, but that with all of our trees are conditioned to be clad with the faux bark. And the applicant can, when the applicant speaks, he can refer to the photo sim as quality of the depiction, but I believe we have a condition for the faux bark.
and if you can see, Commissioner Hodge, I just blew up the elevations for that. These would more or less be like the construction drawings. And I believe this kind of looks more of a depiction like WTP 74.
Okay. All right, very good. I'll defer till after the presentation.
Any other, excuse me, any other commissioners have any other questions?
No.
Very quiet. Do we have? Okay, I guess we'll follow the line. We'll open the public testimony portion of the hearing. Would the applicant like to present the project?
Yes, good evening, Commission. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can. And you are?
All right. Perfect. This is Cameron Dancho on behalf of J5 Infrastructure Partners.
Okay, Cameron, it's all yours.
Beautiful.
Cameron, go ahead.
What screen you guys can see here?
Well, we're seeing ourselves on TV.
Maybe I didn't get the full screen share. There we go. Now you guys should be able to see this. See
Yes,
the
we
screen
can.
moving?
Yes.
Yes.
Perfect. All right, so basic front page project as discussed there. AT&T installation there, 2503 Royal Avenue. Place of the site, it's just more of a cover sheet for you. One thing hasn't been addressed, and I think is extremely important for this site and all AT&T sites moving forward. AT&T was awarded the FirstNet deployment contract. And for those of you who may not be familiar with FirstNet, essentially FirstNet is a line of communications that's strictly dedicated to our first responders. So as we know, as a society, we're more and more dependent on communications and wireless. And in the time of any kind of national disaster, different floods, and we have wildfires out here, everything else, the capacities for towers kind of bogs down in that particular area, right? So with partnering with FirstNet, what this will do is, alleviate giving the consumers their existing line, but actually opening up lines for first responders so they're able to essentially, do their job and help serve and protect the community. Overall, I believe this is in your package as well as far as coverage maps for you. This is a big one that really drives any site is RF coverage. Really, main components is going to be RF coverage, zoning and permitting if we can be able to get the site and area and design needed under the guidelines. Leasability, have to make sure we have an actual landlord that's willing to work with us and has towers and leases. And then constructability costs, everything there. But ultimately, RF and everything you're looking at now is the ultimate factor. If we don't achieve RF objective, then there's really not much point to build this site. So on the left here of the screen, you can see the existing RF coverage. Green is the best, is what we want to see ideal. Yellow is not the best, and purple is poor coverage, meaning this is where you might be able to have dropped calls or not sufficient coverage at all in the area. Over to the right, you can see it's installing the new tower. A lot of this big gap over here on the left has been filled. So now everything is green, yellow. There's still some purple there that can be filled probably with a site in here eventually. But right now, we're actually, fulfilling the majority of the coverage. The actual SARF area is, I think, right here in my cursor, so just off to the left there. Overall, I think it's important also as far as to overlay this, because you can see the coverage maps for one thing. This goes back into zoning and permitting, right? So here is our site. This red circle around is what we call the SARF, or the search area radio frequency. So we need to get a site somewhere in the middle of this circle or close to it to be able to serve the need. The other factor too is if there's existing sites. So say if this site was moved over here, it would be kind of competing with the existing AT&T site here and not providing the most optimal coverage. So really with what we're able to find and identify here, we're almost, if not identically, right in the middle of the search area. So as far as the location identified, this is highly optimal for RF and be able to serve the consumers. You can see on the bottom there were a couple other sites considered as well. I mean, ideally we like to try to co-locate on existing towers or structures. Unfortunately with what's in the area and then given the makeup, there just wasn't anything that was available for AT&T. Next thing is the photo simulation. I know there's a lot of talks on those, and to be honest, yeah, I mean, some of them as far as the views I saw were a little bit kind of close up. Photo sims, are they what they are? They're a simulation. It's kind of hard to make an exact photograph look like a sim or vice versa. So they do the best, but this is a view overall of the site. You can tell it's just popping up, kind of blending in overall. Proposed trees, I know those will be removed, but showing existing there. And I think this was similar to the other picture that Caesar was showing there, but maybe not as close up. The clad, the same thing, is really what it comes down to on the specific one. I know part of our package was samples that if, we were in a typical hearing, you guys could, look, feel, and touch and see the leaves and the bark and everything like that for you. But ultimately, whatever you guys decide as far as what vendor to use, or even potentially using the same vendor on the other site, there's only a handful of tower companies that actually make these nationally. So it'll probably be the same company, if not very similar, but it'd be no problem, making it any other different or, having a better form at the final project. Other than that, that's end of my presentation. I'm open for any questions or comments.
Are there any questions for the applicant?
I'd like to follow up with something Mr. Dancher just said.
Please, by all means, Commissioner Hodge.
Mr. Dancer, just so I'm certain as to what you just said, I believe that you're saying that you could meet your specific needs in terms of height and whatever requirements are necessary by using the WTF 74 form. Is that correct?
When you say form, are you talking about the aesthetic view of the site?
No, I'm talking about we were looking a little bit earlier at two different faux eucalyptus trees. One is the 74 and the other one I think was the 98.
Right.
I think that what you were saying is that you can go with either one and that it could be created at the height that you require and use the 74 appearance, correct?
Correct. Yeah, the overall final appearance, the simulation is just that, the simulation. The CDs show a little bit more detail, like Caesar was discussing as far as how the foliage come out. But exactly that, as part of our approval on self-designs, we have given an example with a specific vendor to the city, and you guys can just tell us which vendor, whether that one's approved or the one in 74, and we'll just order the pole from them. So aesthetically, 98 will look substantially in compliant with 74. Does that answer your question?
It does. I just wanted to make sure, for example, if the commission was to decide, and I haven't made it my mind either, but if the commission were to decide to go with the 74, that's never mind to you. It's A-okay.
Yeah, as long as you're going to just tell us what pole vendor you guys decide to improve for, and then AT&T pulls the tower. Yeah, as long as our biggest thing is the height and the tower of it and being able to communicate with their site. So aesthetically, if you wanted it to be a palm tree, we could do that, but I think the mono eucalyptus was chosen as it's most aesthetically pleasing in the area.
Okay. Very good. I appreciate the confirmation.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I have questions. What are the main differences between the 98 and the 74, other than what we see visually? But is there a difference between the two in distance of like what is the difference between the 74 and the 98? Meaning, is one giving us more than the other, in a sense, or what's the pros and the cons on both?
Okay, the biggest difference is that, Cameron, again, is the one on the right, the 74, it's a photograph, right? So you've gone out there with a camera and you took a picture of it, and it's existing structure. The one to the left is a photo simulation done, with computer work, and they have to decide as far as what the tower is going to look like, the height, design, everything else they have. There's some limitations to it. Mm-hmm. But even so, on the one to the left, you can see the existing mono palm in there. And again, that one looks more of realistic because that, again, is a photo of the mono palm, and then we put the mono eucalyptus in there. So, some sims are better than others. At the end of the day, nothing beats an actual picture of the final product to show all the detail to it. So at the end of the day, I think the conversation and the concern that I'm understanding is you want to look as real and possible more like the one to the right, which is really going to be our final product. It's just a matter of deciding, which vendor and pole manufacturer that is, and we would use them, and aesthetically they would look identical, just in different locations.
Okay.
This might be a question to staff, but do we know who the vendor is on the WTP 74?
Vice Chairman Hodge, Tolson, we have construction plans on file, which should still include the vendor, and the project file should have some of that. It's usually the applicant proposes the vendor and staff works with the applicant during plan check to make sure those conditions are complied with. And there's definitely differences between vendors, but I know there's a couple good wireless vendors out there that should be able to replicate the image on the right.
Thank you.
Okay, I have a question. So is WTP 98, do we have a photo of, does that actually exist somewhere in the world? So it's not just a computer model or computer rendition? Is there an actual photo of one of those out there?
We do not have a photo of an actual installation like that, unless the applicant has a representation.
So who created WTP
Well,
98?
this is Cameron, the applicant. I mean, I would argue that we do, and that's what staff is kind of showing. Our simulation is just a picture, an idea, and kind of getting an idea of the surrounding, how it would impact that area. But ultimately, the image and everything exactly would mirror and look just like a typical monoeucalyptus in the area. The bark would be added on there as you guys would wish, and however high it needs to start. But aesthetically, it would look as much as a tree can out there now.
So who created what we're seeing as WTP 98? Who created that computer image?
The applicant provided that information.
That would be our A&E department.
Okay. That answered my question. Any other questions of the applicant? Commissioners, no other questions? Okay. Did we receive any requests from members of the public to make a public statement on Zoom regarding this matter?
No.
Okay, that was easy. We don't need to worry about the applicant responding. Okay, if there's no further questions, we're going to close the public testimony portion of the hearing. Comments, questions from members of the Planning Commission, please.
I have a question of staff.
By all means, Commissioner Hodge.
Yeah, could we put that, the other picture up, the rendering, the one that has them side by side? I take it that at this point, we have no WTP 98s in the city. Would that be true?
That is correct.
Okay. And as far as we're aware, the way that's designed, the way it is with all the branches looking to be very similar in size and it looking more cylindrical as opposed to tree-like, that's essentially the way, I've seen this before in other cities. There are a number of them that you can see from the 405 freeway as you drive up that area. And I think they're rather obvious. And I've seen them in this design, and I'm curious. I don't want to, foreclose anything, or rather vote to foreclose anything. But essentially, this is the way we understand this design is. It would look like this. The branches all being approximately the same length for the majority of the product, with those panels up there at the top circulating completely around it. Correct?
Commissioner Hodge, that's an excellent point. Actually, we have condition A-14 that specifically requires the design to provide a different length of branches, to provide the different tops on the actual branches, the density of the branches themselves and everything. So the whole point is to avoid having that cylindrical shape that you see over there. So that condition is in your staff report. I believe it's page 24.
Yeah.
And we have a list of items that they need to comply with, which eventually we would not end up with a design or a project that looks like the simulation.
I saw that, and my understanding is that there's two questions here. The first one is whether or not we're going to approve some type of faux tree, and the other question of if it's sort of which one at this point. And then the other part of the analysis and of the questions that we have before us is whether or not the Planning Commission approves this design, WTP 98, and in the future would be subject to an administrative approval. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So my anxiety, if I have one, is that you're showing us a design which may not reflect what these things will ultimately look like. I don't want to, vote against something which is a good design if it's a good design, and I don't want to base it upon this particular rendering because this doesn't seem to include the design conditions or the conditions that you just referenced at different sizes, branches, et cetera. So I'm wondering if if we really have the information, because what we're being presented with is something which may not be what this product actually looks like in the field. And I'm disinclined to sort of put my thumb on it and then leave it up to administrative approvals in the future without knowing what it actually looks like.
That's actually an excellent point, and the reason why we have those conditions is so the actual project that we review after, let's say, the WTP 98 is approved, is not going to look like that. It is going to look more like WTP 74. Those conditions of approval have to be met, and like you heard from the applicant, they're willing to work with the vendor and do what they have to do so it looks like 74. So what you have as a photo simulation is not what we it's not going to be reflective of what the end product will be because we have these conditions.
I'm sure that's true. I just, then we didn't even really need to see a picture of it. I would have loved to have seen something that is in this design that's actually in the field in use so that we could take a look at what it actually looks like as opposed to having to make those kinds of assumptions. And honest to goodness, when I was looking at these photographs, I thought the one on the right, although it's shadowed and all that kind of stuff, I thought the one on the right was a real tree. I really did. Until you look harder, it's kind of hard to, in this photograph, to see that it is a cell tower. But all right, so those are my questions to staff. I have no further questions to staff.
Other commissioners, questions of staff?
No question.
Okay, so my question is, if the end result of WTP 98 is to look more like WTP 74, why do we have WTP 98 even in consideration? Why don't we just go with WTP 74? Am I missing something here?
WTP 74 is not an approved ATFD, so that's why they can just use that. It's not like we can tell them to match that, but the condition that we have
Okay,
basically represents what WTP 74 is. And sometimes it takes time to get photo simulations redone, and it's time and effort and cost and so on and so forth, so we just move forward with what we had. But that's why we brought the picture of 74 so you can see what the intention is as far as the end product. And I think Mr. Gibson wants to add on.
Right. The applicant has been working on this location for probably a couple of years now.
Okay.
And, you could ask him, or like Ms. Pedrosa said, is that there's a cost to update photo simulations based on our final analysis. So similar to the line drawings, which Mr. Hernandez showed, non-photo simulation version also showed us a slightly different shape. As a suggestion, your options could be to approve WTP 98 with the conditions so that it looks somewhat like the image on the right, which was our intent. And if you choose to grant staff the administrative approval option, we could just not include the 98 image in that approval, just show the 74 image, because this is just an opportunity to have the hearing to make the ATFD design for future approvals and just focus on 74 for that. So the 98 photo simulation will not be part of that list of ATFD designs.
well, the 98, this simulation of the 98 obviously doesn't work for, I don't think, anybody. But if we're gonna modify the 98 to make it look more like the 74, then certainly the 98 would, I think, be in consideration.
That's right. The the actual photo simulation would not be good for our ATFD booklet, so to speak.
Correct. Of the 98,
Of the 98.
right, but the 74, yes.
It seems like 74 would be. We have not received any aesthetic complaints on that location since it's been up.
Okay.
Can you, I'm sorry, Chairman Mann, I don't mean to
Oh,
interrupt.
by all
but
means,
may I?
please. You're fine.
Thank you. Did I hear you say that, did somebody say that WTP 74 is not approved in the city?
No, I meant we have not received any aesthetic complaints. It is approved. I'm sorry.
Okay, so, because I'm thinking, then what's it doing there? I think what I'm really saying is I would have loved to have seen, both of these types of towers are in place in real life in Southern California. And I would have loved to have seen a couple of actual options to look at. This is what this can look like. If there are different design features for the 98, this is what the 98 can look like. Because I'm not fond of this design on the left, the 98. The 74 looks like a real tree. And I understand, Mr. Gibson, what you're saying. I just really kind of perplexed as to why we proceeded this way. And I'm uncomfortable approving something that I'm looking at and don't like, with the idea that when it is approved, it will look like something else. We've learned from the questioning that the 74 can be made tall enough to meet this particular location's needs. And so my thinking is to approve the 74 for this project, know that it's going to go in there looking like a real tree. And maybe we can look at the 98 on the next project that comes forward. We could have a little more information on it to see, what and why it would, look, how it would look in the real world. I think Commissioner Gray's question about, what's different about them was an appropriate one. And apparently there's nothing about them that changes the performance characteristics for its purposes. So I like the idea of using the 74 on this project, and we take a look at other ones in the future, as opposed to essentially just seating, we were asked to take a look at these and make an approval or non-approval. And now we're being asked just to let staff do it in the future. So I think that that's sort of ceding the responsibility, and I don't like the idea. So those are my thoughts.
Okay,
I got a couple.
sorry, just as a point of clarification. So the hearing tonight is just WTP 98. The tree is not known as WTP 98. So the permit that they're applying for is wireless telecommunication permit number 98. It's the design of the tree that we seem to have a question about, and we're all agreeing that the bottle brush tree as being shown in this picture is not will not be the finished product. I think what the commissioners want to see is more of the tree that was designed and approved for wireless permit number 74. The tree is not known as 74. That design is not known as 74. That's just a permit number of 74, correct?
Yes, that's the permit number for that other tree.
Okay, so wireless telecommunication
okay.
permit number 98, what we're looking for is basically a different tree design more in line with the one that was previously approved under permit number 74.
Okay, so
That is
I
correct.
have a few questions because I do like the design look of the one that's the permit 74. Thank you for that clarification, because I really thought it was a design, not a permit number. So I'm like, what is the difference? I know that we're looking at the eucalyptus, but some of the designs that I've seen online are showing like the broadleaf trees really seem to not have anything showing. I know that what Commissioner Hodges is saying is that when you go down the 405 freeway, you see the pine trees, you see the palm trees, and they're very obvious. And those are, I think some of the earlier first trees that were out there. But they've also got ones that are cactus and towers and, things that look like water towers. And matter of fact, there's even one that's a flagpole. And again, I have to agree with what everybody else is saying, that the one on the left, since now we're just talking about the design itself, looks more like the design of the palm, or not the palm trees, but the pine trees, where it almost seems like you can really see those, the actual towers themselves. So I like if we can do something to the aesthetics that either looks like the one on the left or on the right, or even looking into the broadleaf trees that seem to cover everything entirely. It doesn't even look like it's a cell tower. I think this is thank you for the clarification on that, because I really thought that we were looking at a model, not a permit number. So I'm in favor of this if we can get the design to look different than the one on the left.
Okay, Commissioner Rice has been asked to put in the queue. Okay, you're up.
I was just going to point out that permit number 74, I'm pretty sure I approved that permit in the first place. I drive by that tree all the time, and, you know, I only notice it because I know that it's there, but I bet you most of the people who drive up that street don't even pay attention to it anymore.
Or it looks like
Whereas the palm tree over there, everybody sees that palm tree and that thing. So I agree. If we could have that project on 74, if we could have a project that looks like that, then I would have no problem having staff make that decision. The problem is that as everybody's pointed out, that photo simulation just looks like a bottle brush, not a.
Chairperson, if I may,
please.
I understand the concerns when you see the photo simulation showing it like that. However, again, we have put a condition in place, and we can actually add on to the condition in place that we have to ensure that it's going to look like the tree that was approved in 2015, which is the one, the permit number 74. So even though that photo simulation is deceiving, that's not going to be the end product.
Okay.
And unfortunately, because of whatever reasons from the applicant, that we didn't get a revised photo simulation, but like Mr. Hernandez said, the actual construction drawings do reflect what is approved in 2015 for WTP 74. So what you're approving for the project is the drawings, all the drawings that we have, which you have in your packet, as well as the conditions. So technically, you're covered in that it is going to look representative of what you see for WTP 74. As far as what you've seen on the freeways of the 405, what have you, technology has changed. You know, some of the first trees that were done were horrible. Now they're getting more sophisticated. So sometimes it's kind of hard to find a representation of an installation that is contemporary, that will show you more what's been done today. So as far as approving or not approving WTP 98, if the confusion is based on the photo simulations, we can even basically even exclude the photo simulations as part of the exhibit's approval and just go with the actual working drawings that are more representative of the 74 as a suggestion.
Okay.
Can I?
By all means.
Yeah, this is,
Just 1 second, Commissioner Hodge. So, however, what we could do is we could approve this project and not make it an ATFD and have that come back later and go more into detail. So we could approve the individual project, but as far as administrative approval, that would be something we could decide at a future date.
You could do that, and also if you can also just basically describe WTP 74 as your ATFD design as well and approve it as well.
I understand, but if we do that, then we're making everything an administrative, and I
You want to see it that?
detect a little bit of hesitancy in Commissioner Hodge, and I kind of have a little hesitancy too.
No problem. Yeah,
So-
you could definitely do that as an option.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Hodge, question?
No, sorry.
no, I think actually Commissioner Rice just covered what I was going to bring up. So essentially, isn't option 2 what Commissioner Rice just talked about? Well, actually, it's not, because it's not. It's approve. We want. See, my thinking is I think we want to approve the project, not with the WTP 98 design, but with the 74 design.
Yeah, the recommendation number 2 is basically what you're suggesting to do, deny the ADFD design. Just remember that the permit number 98, it already has within its conditions for it to look like 74. So 98 is gonna look like 74, for lack of better words. And we can,
Well,
like I mentioned,
that's going to have to somehow be reflected in the motion. And so I'm anxious that we get that correct, so there's no confusion, especially, there's a concept in the law of contract that says that you want to have language in the contract that assumes that everybody who made the agreement is dead, and you can't go back and ask them what they meant. And so the language in the contract has to precisely indicate what it was that the parties were trying to agree about. And so I hate to
if I may
suggest that, but I want whatever it is that we approve to, not require somebody to come back and say, hey, what do you guys really mean about that? That it sort of stand on its own.
those are actually excellent points, and I suggest for condition A1, where we discuss all the materials, colors, and exhibits that are approved, we can cross out photo simulations. That's condition A1 on your staff report, the first page of Exhibit B. We can remove photo simulations. In that way, we know for sure that it's not going to look like that. And
Well, more importantly, we need to come up with a motion tonight so that the applicant can move forward. That describes what it is we really intend to do.
Commissioner Rice, you're still on to talk, or are you done talking? Oh. Okay, I'll clear you out of the queue.
I'm also in agreement with Commissioner Hodge that we should determine something, even if we look at number 2, even if we're going to approve the project, but then it's the design that we seem to all be having an issue with, is that it doesn't, I don't want to maybe it doesn't necessarily have to be the eucalyptus, as there's other options out there as well, something that's going to look more natural. So even though I know you're saying that if we approve number one says that we're going to approve it and it's going to be the mono eucalyptus, but maybe there's another option out there than just the eucalyptus. Like I said, the broad leaf trees, or even some of the pines that are more up to date. And I understand the 405, I thought when they put them up, they were amazing. But now, after how many decades later, it's not as amazing as it was back then. But if we are going to be stuck to just one design tree, that's kind of an issue that I'm concerned about, that's what we actually put in there as a motion.
Well, what is being proposed for this project is a mono eucalyptus. In this particular design, it might have been the proper design based on the number of antennas and the size of antennas, and a monopine might not have been appropriate. Nevertheless, that's not what's being proposed at this time.
Well, that and there's currently palm trees there. To put a pine tree near a palm tree just in Southern California, to me, makes no sense. But all things being aside, if the photo simulation on WTP 98 had the photo of the eucalyptus tree of WTP 74, we wouldn't be having any of these conversations. And obviously, staff has already approved WTP 74, Planning Commission did. So I'm not sure, I got to be convinced that we can trust staff that we can approve WTP 98 with the mono eucalyptus tree to be more the design of the already approved WTP 74 versus the photo simulation. That's a horrible photo simulation that never should have been put in there of WTP 98. And I think staff going forward can also have that same power to go ahead and approve these WTPs, wireless telecommunication permits, with the photos or with the mono eucalyptus trees based on 74, nowhere near 98. So, do we have any other commissioners with any other questions or comments?
I'll say something for about 3 minutes.
Go ahead, Commissioner
Growing up,
Tolson.
growing up, I had a fake Christmas tree, and it looked like the rendition on 98, and it was obvious that it was a fake tree. I think that the staff is saying that what's written with the conditions, and if they exclude the picture and the rendering of the crud-looking tree, we can make it work and move forward. That's it for me.
That was nowhere near 3 minutes.
Sorry.
That's okay. Other commissioners?
I'm working on language.
Thank you. Commissioner Gray, well, Commissioner Hodges is working on language.
I also have a proposal.
Oh, hang on.
So
Our
Commissioner,
City Attorney,
so Commissioner Hodge, I'm proposing something like, I move to adopt a resolution to approve WTP 98 as conditioned for this particular application, deny the designs of the mono-eucalyptus ATFD for tonight, and table it, and then determine that this project is exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act.
The concern I have about that is it once again doesn't describe what it is we're hoping the product to be. So what I'm suggesting is approved WTP 98 conditioned upon design features depicted in previously approved WTP 74.
We can do that. I know that, that we can absolutely do that. That's fine.
Okay, well, I'll let you work out the rest of the language.
Okay. Well, it's just consistent with number 2. So when we're ready at that point, I can let Sean know and we can propose that.
I'm sorry, who made the proposal prior to Commissioner Hodge making his comments?
City Attorney David Cisneros.
I'm sorry, who?
City Attorney.
Oh.
Oh, okay.
Technically, it's the Assistant City Attorney, David Caceres.
Sorry, I promoted you.
David. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Congratulations on the promotion, by the way. Sorry, Lonnie. Okay, so do we have somebody that's going to try and decipher a motion? We're working on that.
All right, here's this as a proposal. Approve wireless telecommunications project permit, WTP 98, as conditioned upon construction using design features previously approved in WTP 74, and determine that the project is exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act.
That's fine, but we also need to table the part that at this moment, the Planning Commission is not going to make a determination on this as this particular design, the mono-eucalyptus ATFD for right now. So
Okay, so then we can insert and deny the design before the determination of the exemption. You can include deny the designs of the mono-eucalyptus ATFD and determine that the product is exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act.
Right, we're going to table that for this meeting.
I think that's fine. As opposed to deny, we can table
Yes.
the design.
Yep, otherwise,
Yeah, I
that's
think-
good. That's good. I think when the Planning Commission is ready, you can make that motion as you've written down.
Okay, I'm not sure I can repeat it, but
I
Give it a
second
shot.
what you just said.
We'll help you out.
Are we at that point?
I think so. Do any other commissioners have any questions, comments, remarks, suggestions? Okay, Commissioner Hodge, you want to go ahead and try and make the motion, and we'll help you through it.
sure. I move to approve wireless telecommunications permit WTP 98, conditioned upon implementation of design features depicted in previously approved WTP 74 in the city of Simi Valley, table the designs of the mono-eucalyptus ATFD, and determine that the project is exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act.
That's perfect, and we'll do so by way of resolution. Thank you, Commissioner Hodge.
I second that.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Hodge and a second by Vice Chair Tolson. Call for the vote.
Yes for John.
Commissioner Hodge,
Yes.
Commissioner Gray, Commissioner Gray,
Looks like we may have lost her.
Yeah, she's not on Zoom.
We lost Commissioner Gray?
Yes.
Probably poor internet connectivity.
Perhaps there should be a tower error.
There she is.
Oh, there's Commissioner Gray.
Sorry, Spectra has us with two routers, and in middle of the day, they restart our internet, and they don't know what's going on. I apologize.
Commissioner Gray, did you hear the motion?
You know what? I didn't because I was gone for a while, but I was asking the question of that. I like what David had suggested, which was, I was like trying to figure out what was the difference between what David was making a suggestion on and what Commissioner Hodge had proposed. So if somebody wouldn't mind repeating it, I apologize.
Yeah, we will have to repeat that motion so that all of the commission members will have a chance to hear it.
Okay,
Okay.
Staff or Commissioner Hodge?
Commissioner Hodge?
Yeah, can you go back to the slide that showed proposal number 2? Okay, so my understanding of the motion was move to approve wireless telecommunications permit WTP 98 conditioned upon design features depicted in previously approved wireless telecommunications permit WTP 74. Table the design of the monoeucalyptus ATFD and determine that the project is exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act.
That's right, and we'll do so by way of resolution. That's the motion on the floor.
Okay, then let's go ahead and revote.
Can I ask for clarification real quick?
Yes.
Would that restrict the height if it was to be basing it on the permit from 74 when this project, they're asking for a taller tower?
No,
So
it
if we are saying that it's referring to the approved permit 74, is that going to by any way restrict what is required by, or they're requesting
No, it's
on
just-
height?
No, we're just referencing 74 for the overall design. of the
Okay,
eucalyptus
that's
tree.
all the clarification I needed. Thank you.
Okay,
vote?
so again, call for the vote, please.
Commissioner Hodge,
Yes.
Vice Chairperson Tolson,
Yes.
Commissioner Gray,
First, bless you. Yes.
motion passes 5-0.
Okay, good job. The appeal period for WTP is 14 calendar days. The other part was tables, so don't need to do anything with that. Now we can move on. I have no other new business. Oral communications reports. Staff have anything to report?
Good evening.
Working.
Microphone's working this time. The next Planning Commission meeting is on April 21st. We believe we have one Development Code amendment and another housing element session.
Okay. Do any commissioners have anything to report? Hearing none. Mobile Home Rent Mediation Board?
No items tonight.
Tree Advisory Board.
And no additional tree items tonight either.
This concludes the meeting of April 7th, 2021. Next scheduled meeting is April 21st, 2021. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you, one and all.
Goodbye, all.